heads up. As soon as we start, we'll get started with the meeting. Hi, everyone that is viewing this on Facebook Live. We're going to get started in a few minutes with our July Cook County Commission on Social Innovation meeting.
Hey, this is Patrick Brutus. I just got a message from Karen. She's going to try to call in now because she has made too many attempts to log in and now she's blocked out.
Thank you. We'll try to see if we can find a way to get her into the meeting. So with that, we're gonna get started on the July 30th, 2020 Cook County Social Innovation Commission meeting. I want to thank all of you all who are joining us, all the commission members, along with Cook County staff from the different departments that will be presenting today. Just before we get started, I just want to make sure that I read over our executive orders and our virtual meeting protocols that the county has set forward. This is generally what the Cook County Secretary to the Board, the guidelines that they have provided to us. So I want to make sure that I follow through that, and then we will get started with public testimony. So I'd like to call this meeting to order. In compliance with the Governor's Executive Orders 2020-7, 2020-10, and 2020-18, attendance at this meeting will be by remote means only. Instructions for how to attend this meeting and to participate in written public comment will be provided going forward and was provided for this meeting on Cook County Legistar webpage at cook-county.legistar.com. And this was done prior to July 30th, 2020. The proceedings will be able to be viewed at https://www.facebook.com/Cook County Mission/ on July 30th, 2020 at 3:30 p.m. Written comments on any of the items on the agenda will be accepted at 7thdistrict.office@gmail.com until 24 hours prior to the meeting. Written comment provided up to 24 hours prior to the meeting may be read out loud or summarized at the meeting. 3 minutes per comment is allowed. Through every effort, we'll be able to read any comments or statements to its entirety. Copies of the agenda and items to be considered at this meeting were also available electronically on the Cook County Legistar website. Note that Cook County Building 118 North Clark Street, Chicago, Illinois 60602 was closed to the public until the date that was determined. I know some parts of 118 North Clark have reopened due to the current circumstances concerning COVID-19. And with that, I am going to ask the staff to please take roll call attendance.
Okay, can you, when I read the name, can you please state here? Ana Guajardo? Absent. Carrie Thomas? Carrie Thomas? Absent. Kristen Freeman?
Present.
Kristen Freeman, present. Harold Rice? Harold Rice? Absent. Harry Alston? Harry Alston, absent. Howard Mills,
It's on.
Howard Mills,
Here.
present. John Yonan, John Yonan, absent. Christy De Laurentiis,
Here.
present. Mark Lane, Mark Lane, absent. Morgan Monroe,
Here.
Morgan Monroe, present. Victor Dixon, Victor Dixon,
Yes, and I believe that he's not officially part of the meeting anymore.
Yeah.
So you could skip him.
Wendy Raymer,
Here.
Wendy Raymer, present. Xochitl Espinosa,
Here.
Xochitl Espinosa, present. Xochitl Flores,
Present.
Xochitl Flores, present. Roger Cooley,
Present.
Roger, present. Jerry Engelplay,
Here.
present. Sol Anderson,
Here.
Sol, present. Patrick Brutus,
Present.
Patrick Brutus, present. Karen Norrington Reeves, Karen Norrington Reeves, absent.
No, she's on the phone. I know that. She just sent me a message, but
Karen, can you hear us?
I think the issue is that
Hi, I'm here. I'm here.
Karen, present.
Can you hear me?
Now we can hear you.
Great, thank you.
Maria Haddon, Alderman Maria Haddon, absent. Commissioner Anaya,
Present.
present. Commissioner, you have quorum.
Thank you. Being advised that we have quorum, we're going to get started with public testimony. Yesenia, is there any public comment that has been submitted to us?
We did not receive any public comment.
Thank you. So we'll move on to the approval now. Having quorum, we're going to move to approval of the minutes for the February 20th, 2020 meeting. I'll entertain a motion. Does anybody want to make the motion? And make sure that if you're making the motion to unmute yourself prior.
Disassociate motion to approve.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second, this is Jerry.
Jerry, thank you.
Hi, it's Howard Mills. I was muted by the system. I want to make sure I'm present. I did respond.
Thank you, Howard. We'll make sure to take note. Okay, the motion on the floor
Thank you.
is to approve the minutes for the February 2020 meeting. So we have a motion by Xochitl Flores, and then it's seconded by Jerry. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
aye.
Hi.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. I just do want to take a note. I know that we had received a comment in regards to Mark Lovelace being one of the motioners. That was the last meeting he attended, and he did make those motions. So I just want to make sure that I take that up. And in regards to that, before we get started with the updates from my office, I want to make sure that we do take a moment of silence. As you all know, one of our members, our social innovation commissioners, passed away earlier this year. And I want to take a few, a moment to acknowledge that. You know, I know that he would have been here in this meeting had he been, you know, in our here in before passing. So I just want to make sure that we take that moment of silence. So I'll ask for the moment. Thank you. So again, thank you everyone, all the commission members who are joining us today. I know that it's been quite a painful few months, not only due to COVID, but just this commission had been so active in looking into a lot of the areas, and now actually we're having to face. So I know we had to take a pause given the circumstances, and you all have been so patient with us. I know we had some technical difficulties for a few months, and it was quite hard for us to get started with our meetings. So again, thank you for being so patient and for your willingness to continue working with the commission. So last month, I was able to hold a few briefings with a few of you, specifically in regards to the federal funding that Cook County received in response to COVID-19. And it was great to hear from all the work that all the commission members are doing. And I know that you all received last week a summary of those briefings and also for the invitation for this meeting. So if we had a wrong email address, feel free to reach out to my office after this meeting. We can definitely send over those notes. But I did want to make sure that that I thanked every commission member that was able to participate in those briefings. I know I met with like 2 or 3 of you at a time. So I just wanted to share a few of the things that came out of that and a few of the impacts that you all are working on, and some of the areas that we need to be concentrating as a commission going forward. So there was interest in looking into technical training and partnerships to support job skills, especially those for individuals who may have lost their jobs due to the pandemic. So I know that, one of our commission members, Karen Norrington Reeves, was not able to attend the briefings, but she has done a lot of work in specifically this area, and potentially she'll be able to give us a briefing on that work at our next meeting. So we would love for her to share, and we're looking forward to that as well. Another thing that came up was the impact on the impact of the pandemic, specifically around public transportation and its future. And this was specifically to our bureau chief, John Yonan, our superintendent, John Yonan, who mentioned that sustainability of the public funding infrastructure for public transit, specifically around the area of low ridership, creates a great uncertainty. So we want to make sure that we take that and see what the county can do specifically around that. The other thing, the other uncertainty that was discussed was in regards to the housing market and the role of property taxes. So the next the next year, the city of Chicago will be reassessed as it does it every 3 years. And we're trying to see what that impact will look like after the pandemic on housing values and the security insecurity that it could create for a lot of communities. So the office, the assessor's office has begun COVID-19 assessments to attempt to address this, and we're just monitoring the impact because we know that often there's unintended consequences that come out of it. So we're going to be monitoring that. In addition, we just passed earlier today the Justice for Black Lives, which is pretty much a blueprint of some sort to address the injustices that have happened to Black lives here in Cook County. And some of the areas that we're focusing on are things like health, mental health, housing, worker opportunities, amongst many, many others. and we wanted to make sure to bring that up as well. Last month, we also did a resolution in regards to eviction filings. We know that despite the governor's executive order to stop evictions, there's been over 400 different types of filings that have been put in place just due to people not being able to pay for their properties or their rent. So we wanted to make sure that we asked for the dismissal and the sealing of those 400 plus filings. We also did a few other resolutions that I'll briefly mention, and then lead into the presentation from our Cook County Bureau of Economic Development. Some of those include a resolution in support of preventing disability discrimination in healthcare. This happened a lot due to COVID. A lot of people were confused on their rights. If a person had a disability, they have the right to be able to bring somebody with them to the hospital, and at times many people were being turned away. So that was one we wanted to support. We also called upon public health authorities to prioritize equity and contact tracing, which we think is going to be very important in the next few months as contact tracing begins in Chicagoland and in Cook County. And then also asked, we've been working with a team and a working group in Cook County to look at ADA issues that the county has been having, but also to create a plan for the next few years on how the county could not only become fully compliant with ADA, but also be very proactive about its efforts. We know that just this past Sunday, it's the 30th anniversary of the Americans with Disabilities Act, and we want to make sure that we are at the county being very proactive in regards to that. So those are just a few of the highlights that I wanted to make sure that I brought up, because those are to some extent directly related to the commission and some of the work that has been happening with some of the commission members as well. If I know that I talked a little bit about the briefings. I know I missed a few other items. I'd be here for 30 minutes discussing everything we discussed, but I want to make sure that that I didn't miss anything important. So if any of the members that participated in the briefings, if I'm missing something and you would like to maybe add something, I'm more than happy to give you the floor. Just let me know if you have additional comments on that end. If there's not, I'm not seeing any hands or any comments on the section. So if there's no additional comments, what I'm going to do is I'm going to welcome our Bureau Chief Xochitl Flores and also some of the members on her team, as well as representatives from the Department of Planning and Development to walk us through their presentation. This is something that I'm really excited that the county has been very proactive on, specifically dealing with the recovery after, and honestly, rapid response and recovery of COVID-19. And they've been an intricate part of a lot of the initiatives that the county has put forth. So I want to make sure, we're very proud that the Bureau Chief Flores is, a commission member and that she's been so proactive. So I'll hand it over to her for the presentation in regards to the initiatives in response to COVID.
Commissioner, before we head over, we had another commissioner member join the meeting.
Sure. Who is that?
Commissioner John?
Is that John Yonan?
Yes, I believe so. He joined via phone.
Okay, he might be on mute.
Commissioner John?
Yes, hi. I was on 3 different devices to get in. I said I wasn't going to give up, so I am here.
Thank you, Superintendent, for joining us, and sorry about all the technology glitches that we had.
Glad to be here. Thank you.
Thank you. Yesenia, can you please make sure to add him to the roll?
will do.
And I'll hand it over to Bureau Chief Flores.
Thank you, Commissioner. And will my deck be put up for people to see?
Yes, we are working on it. Yesenia, if you could
Perfect.
please put on the.
I can start anyway. Well, good afternoon, everyone. And I know it'll come up shortly, but thank you again, Commissioner, and thank you to all for giving us an opportunity to talk a bit about the Cook County Community Recovery Initiatives. I know that in the last meeting, the Commissioner was able to provide a little bit about our rapid response work, which was rapidly deployed. It was quite a lift for my team, but they're joining us here today because they are excited to share with individuals all the great work that has gone into the development of a robust rapid recovery effort, and then now looking at our equitable response initiatives and how we deploy those. So
You have one more call.
so we're excited to join today and provide an overview of these initiatives and how we're utilizing the CARES funding, the CRF funding that's been allocated, the $82 million that's been allocated by the Cook County Board for Economic Development Initiatives. So as you all well know, this pandemic is having a profound effect on the lives of many within Cook County, both our businesses and residents. And over the last few months, the Bureau has really been working on our rapid response efforts and now pivoting to our equitable recovery initiatives. But this isn't an initiative that is able to get pulled together just with the Bureau of Economic Development. It really is the entire county coming together, bringing in resources from the President's office and the Chief Financial Officer and across the board, everyone rolling up their sleeves, because we realize that it's important at this time when so many people, so many businesses are suffering, that we figure out how it is that we can leverage our resources to have the greatest impact in those communities that we serve. So it's exciting that we can join you today and provide an overview of the initiatives that we have been able to design. But I just wanted to highlight that there is no way that we would have been able to do this without our partners and many stakeholders. Even the Civic Consulting Alliance and the Boston Consulting Group joined us in looking at what was happening nationwide and helping us to identify how we can be most impactful in assisting with recovery efforts. So if you could forward the slide, please. And I'll quickly go through some of the front end stuff. And I know that the Commissioner will share this deck. So I wanted to make sure that a complete deck was provided to all of our commission members so that you could peruse it. But given time constraints, I want to make sure that we have an opportunity to really dig into the initiatives that we're going to be implementing. So what I'm going to do is just quickly talk about some of the highlights of our rapid response efforts. So if you can go, I think two slides forward. Yeah. So early on, as I said, we surveyed businesses, we surveyed residents to determine how Cook County should best utilize its resources for rapid response efforts. And what we heard quickly was that we needed to launch a technical assistance program to help businesses navigate through a bunch of information that was being provided by elected officials across the board, but also the state, federal resources that were coming down the pipeline. And they really needed to understand how they can navigate and access the proper resources. So we partnered with 3 great organizations to work with us to really develop a robust series of webinars that would guide businesses in how to access the Paycheck Protection Program funding, So those included the American Business Immigration Coalition, the National Partnership for New Americans, and the Illinois Restaurant Association. So through those partners, we had over 4,000 individuals and businesses participate in our webinars. They have really been working hand in hand with businesses to help them access loans, whether it's PPP or other loans available through the state. So they've been able to access over $7 million worth of loans. And we also launched our own small business loan program that actually is for small businesses, gig workers, and independent contractors. So that was from the business recovery side. What we wanted to also do was assess from the resident side, what were the most critical resources that were needed. And early on, providing additional resources to the homelessness centers that we work with closely was something that we did immediately. So those were our two-pronged approach to rapid response. And we've now pivoted to really focus on developing these robust recovery initiatives. So if you can move forward a few slides to, and again, these slides will be provided to you just to give you sort of an overview of our initiatives. But what I really want to focus on is this next phase, which is the launching of our rapid or our recovery efforts. And really what we've broken it down to is to two teams of individuals that are focused on both the business recovery side and the community recovery side. Can we advance one slide? Okay. So in terms of the business recovery side, as we worked with actually many of the individuals on this call, but also partners with philanthropy and subject matter experts, we really wanted to assess what initiatives we could quickly deploy with partners to leverage our resources with an existing structure to get dollars out to assist small businesses, to assist unemployed individuals, and to assist the manufacturing sector. So that was our grouping of business recovery initiatives, and we'll get into them in a bit. And then on the community recovery side, we realized that we really needed to focus on housing and critical social service initiatives. So we'll discuss that in more detail. But through this process, I think what the most important component was to really figure out who were partners that already had an existing structure in place and were doing that well, that we could partner with to deploy these resources in a quick turnaround time. Because CRF funding, CARES funding, is currently only eligible till the end of the fiscal year or the end of the calendar year. So the intent is to develop these robust models. We are going to instill very robust metrics into all of these initiatives, because after this 5-month period, what we want to do is assess which ones are most impactful in assisting both residents and businesses throughout this recovery period, so that in 2021, we could use that data to analyze how we can best utilize our CDBG funding or ESG funding to continue supporting many of these initiatives. So that's the way we have it structured. We're fortunate that we have great partners. I know Karen's on this call, and she's one of our strong partners that's working with us on workforce initiatives, and we're partnering with the partnership. I don't think Harold is on the line. I didn't hear that he was on the line today, but CETA is another partner of ours that's working closely with us on utility assistance and deploying a utility assistance program for residents in suburban Cook County. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Irene Shear that will just run through our business recovery initiatives, and we are going to be around to answer any questions. But we appreciate the opportunity to just brief everyone and talk a little bit about the initiatives that we will be deploying in the upcoming month. So Irene, can you jump into the next slide?
Yeah, can everybody hear?
Yes, Irene. Actually, let's go one slide further. All right, Irene.
Yeah, so hello, everybody. Good afternoon. This again just shows you the two big buckets, business and community. So let's go advance one more slide and we'll dive into small business. So small business is obviously a priority for the county, and you don't really need to hear the facts and details from me because we see it every day. But last week, the Tribune reported that 4,400 Chicago area businesses were closed, and 2,400 of those 4,400, so over half, have indicated that they are not reopening. So we understand the challenges that COVID has presented to small businesses, and our objective here was to provide additional support through grants and couple it with technical assistance from a network of what we're calling business service organizations. So to do this, the county is partnering with the Chicago Community Trust, which had already been working with the Chicago Urban League, the Illinois Hispanic Chamber, Women's Business Development Center, to develop a network of business service organizations. So those three larger ones, plus over 20 small chambers of commerce and business service groups, to reach out and connect businesses to offer assistance. So that is what we're trying to do here. 12.6 million will be for small business grants. They'll be $10,000 each grant will be $10,000. Grants will be evaluated based on their eligibility. They must be in Suburban Cook. They have to be in good standing, things like that. And then they will be scored based on an equity metric. We are utilizing the county's equity funding model to score the location of businesses, and then we'll be giving additional points for smaller businesses, minority and women-owned businesses, things like that. And then the highest scores will have an opportunity to receive the grant. We anticipate there'll be more demand than we have in resources, but we're gonna, see how far we can go with it and hope to get additional investors into this fund. So we go to the next one. Next slide, please. Yeah.
And Irene, if I could just add one thing to that. So with regards to that small business initiative, what I really like about that program is that, again, at many of these initiatives, we realize that Cook County alone does not need to stand up all of these programs. That one really came together because we have been partnering with philanthropy to really assess how we can look at an issue and partner together on addressing this issue. So fortunately with the Chicago Community Trust, they had already been developing a model to assist small businesses. And as we looked through what they were developing, we knew that that was something that we would want to partner with them, because they had been assessing and figuring out who were the best partners to participate in that program. But that's the type of partnership that's needed during this time. It's the private sector coming together with philanthropy, coming together with government to figure out how we can really coordinate efforts to be most impactful. So I'm glad that through these partnerships, we can deploy resources more comprehensively. And that's the idea with many of these initiatives. We just need to sort of align with others and figure out what resources can we all bring to the table to be most impactful. So I know I keep drilling that in, but I just see that the need is so great, and it's unfortunate when people feel like they need to build it on their own, because there's no way that we can build all these things individually and have the same impact. So I'm excited to partner with the Chicago Community Trust and other philanthropic partners to get that initiative out. And we're hoping to get that out in August. So we'll keep people posted as these initiatives get implemented.
And I think the one other point I'd like to add to what Sochi said is, before the county joined this coalition of organizations, the network was being set up to service largely city-only businesses. The lead organizations, the Illinois Hispanic Chamber, Women's Business Development Center, and the Urban League, of course, serve more than the city, but their roots are pretty city-centric. And so our participation has really expanded the breadth of this program, and all of the grant dollars will be spent in Suburban Cook. But we will also be bringing a lot of businesses into the pipeline because of the grant funds, which will help all of the organizations develop some roots in the suburbs, which we are eager to do. Okay, so workforce. Unemployment is also at a record high, and overall Cook County unemployment is about 16%, which is high. However, it masks what are even more dramatic levels of unemployment in particular communities. So communities like Harvey, Cicero, Maywood have unemployment rates as high as 25%. So what we are doing to address workers that have been impacted by COVID in terms of losing their job, we are partnering with the Chicago Cook Workforce Partnership. And we are really happy to do that and thrilled that Karen's on the line. And Karen, feel free after I give the overview if you may have obviously have a better understanding of what you're going to be doing than I do. But we are going to provide the partnership with $4 million to support their ongoing initiatives in Suburban Cook. $1.5 million of that will be for training vouchers for individuals to get additional training to pursue additional careers or just strengthen their skills in their existing fields. Then we will be splitting $1.5 million to go to the Suburban American Job Centers and the Suburban Community Colleges to provide additional staff for coaching, outreach, job search assistance, that type of work. Then we also will be launching a pilot program with Manufacturing Renaissance to develop an early warning network or layoff aversion effort, but particularly one that's triggered by COVID. So manufacturers have been facing lots of issues. Succession planning is one of them. And when there is a crisis like COVID, sometimes that accelerates people's decisions to close their business. So we are using this as an opportunity to launch this initiative and hopefully build upon it for other sectors. So that is what we're trying to do there. We are really excited about adding resources to support workers in Suburban Cook. Next slide. And manufacturing is an important sector that often gets overlooked, and it has not been as hard hit as some of the other sectors in COVID, but COVID has impacted many of the smaller firms. Their supply chains have been disrupted. They've had to adjust their work schedules to maintain social distancing. So they are facing challenges as well. And we are partnering here with something called the Illinois Manufacturing Excellence Center, which is the federally designated manufacturing extension partnership for the state of Illinois. And we will work with them. They will do what they're really calling is a manufacturing census. They will be reaching out to approximately 5,800 manufacturers with the goal of connecting with 1,000 to identify urgent and pressing needs. Once a business identifies an urgent need, they will then be connected within 48 hours to a specialized technician who will assist them in identifying resources or services that can address their concerns. At the end of this period, which would be December 30th, INEC will provide the county with a detailed analysis from the 1,000 businesses that they've surveyed and provide us with recommendations on ways the county can continue to support manufacturers in this ongoing COVID environment. And that actually concludes our small business cluster of programs. And I think Dom Tosi will be highlighting the ones for the social service initiative. So you could move on to the next slide. And I believe.
Wendy, it looks like you had a comment or a question.
Yeah, before we move on to the community element, just a question on the small business. So those $10,000 grants that you'll start to be giving out, are there any restrictions on those? Do they have to be for salaries, or can they be for whatever the business owner wants?
Yes, they are for all legal expenses that a business may have, except any that have been funded by other federal funds. So yeah, we try to leave it open, and they, as long as the expenses are eligible. So it could be rent, it could be payroll, it could be PPE equipment. Any of those types of things would be eligible. And we've based this program on pretty much, it's a mirror of one that was launched about 6 or 8 weeks ago in Columbus, Ohio. We're working with an organization called Linktree, and they are a small business advisory firm. And they have helped us develop the program, our scoring rubric, the parameters, all of that. They had also done work with the Chicago Community Trust and JP Morgan Chase about 18 months ago, looking at the City of Chicago small business ecosystem. And this technical assistance network that we're launching is a result of that earlier work.
That's wonderful. I love the building on things that were already in place. It really shows that when you have a vision, you never know, like when you start and when you put these things together, your intended impact is great, but then something like COVID happens along and it even accelerates what you envisioned these things to do even more. One other question, you mentioned in the manufacturing initiative, and correct me if I'm wrong, the organization is going to wrap back around with a survey to 1,000 recipients and to check in of what their needs are and how the program worked. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's a phone survey.
Yeah, but something just to check back in. Do you see any value or opportunity to do that as well for the workforce initiative and with the small businesses?
Very good question. It's definitely something we could consider if we had, some funds available.
Yeah.
These ideas for all, I think, across the board, really, we reached out to our partners and asked them what could they offer, based on what they were doing, could they offer that we could deploy quickly during this period. And so IMEC, this is what they came to us with. We actually proposed several other things to them, but they really felt this was the thing they could do that would kind of give us the biggest bang for the buck and would really help position us for deeper partnership, down the road. If there is additional CRF funding available, and there's lots happening in DC this week. There would be potential for something like that.
Yeah, that's interesting. Do you have partners with the universities? I mean, some of the, resources there in our university to kind of do a bit of an assessment or something might be.
Yeah, that's an idea we can explore more. We did some initial outreach for small businesses, and I could circulate the report. Early on during our first phase, we distributed a survey on behalf of the Urban Poverty Lab at University of Chicago. And so they got about 1,000 responses to that survey. There were about 120 of them were in Cook County. The majority of them were in the city of Chicago. And so they've shared their findings from that survey. And I got briefed on that yesterday. So their findings underscored really the way we've shaped our program. A lot of businesses felt a need for technical assistance and direction to help them navigate all the resources that are available. But we could go back to them and explore whether there's any additional survey work that they might want to do. We've also worked with the Voorhees Center on other projects. So, that's a good idea.
Yeah, I would really encourage that. And this goes back to my conversation with you, Commissioner. And I, this is a lot of money that Cook County is handling and responsible for and trying to do the right thing with. And it really would behoove the county to at least show there was some good faith effort in keeping track of it and ensuring and following up that the money did have the intended support or aid or result that it was going for. It's just maybe another check.
Yeah, you're reminding me of one other thing. So the county also has a relatively new program with the University of Chicago called the International Innovation Corps on data. And so for the past 2 years, the county gets a few of the fellows. These are recent graduates from either the Harris School or another graduate program, and they get embedded with the county in a different department. And so we just put our request in for this coming year, and our fellow will be doing exactly what you said. We'll be collecting data and metrics on all across the board of all of the initiatives that we're involved in to help us track the impact of what we're doing.
That's great. That's great.
Yeah, we just voted on that initiative earlier today on our board meeting. So we'll definitely have somebody that is really keeping track of how we're doing this, because it's, it's very unique. So we're definitely, this is not something that happens every year. So we definitely want to make sure that we are being accountable and also going to the issues that we have that are specifically addressing that. So we're going to be very careful with that. And Irene, what I'm going to ask is we're going to hold any additional questions. I know that we're running a little bit short on time, so we'll go on to Dom's presentation, and then we'll come back and circle back with any of the follow-up questions. So if you do have any other questions, please write them down so you don't forget them, and then we'll circle back as a whole to answer those questions.
Hey everyone, sorry, I wasn't sure if I was still muted by the Zoom or not. So I think I'm here. Can you hear me now?
We can hear you.
Great.
And Yesenia, can you forward over the slides a little bit? There you go. I think one back.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I'm sorry that I can't see everybody and that I'm just by phone. I'm assuming you're on the critical social services slide. So I'll walk us through that one. You just heard about our business efforts from Irene. On the resident side of our work, the overarching issue is that the incomes of our residents are being squeezed, particularly in communities of color. And with unemployment reaching 16%, the income losses are really driving a range of issues for the residents. First and foremost, issues meeting their housing payments. And Carl Bradley, our housing deputy, will talk shortly about our efforts around mortgage and rental assistance. But that's a major challenge. But we're also seeing a huge increase in food insecurity. It's doubled overall, tripled among families with children. Food pantry visits are up 126% compared to January. So a lot of need in that area. And then just difficulty making ends meet more generally. One marker of that being we're seeing a 56% increase in residents that are seeking utility assistance. And then within the suburban homeless system, for those who aren't familiar, there's really very little fixed shelter in suburban Cook. So they've had to pivot their model, which is normally a church-based rotating shelter model, and they've moved into a hotel-based approach to keep the individuals safe and healthy. And while it's been successful, and they provided over 70,000 shelter nights since the crisis began, and over 200,000 meals, it is a much more costly approach. So the solutions we've crafted on the resident side are meant to keep people housed and provide residents with the services and financial assistance they need to address the challenges they're facing. And we focused it in 3 areas that are kind of represented by the buckets in the middle of the slide. First around homeless sheltering, the second bucket around legal aid, housing counseling, and foreclosure mediation, which is a group we're calling Housing Stability Services. We feel like that's a key component because despite a number of sources of housing assistance, rent and mortgage assistance, coming online soon, both through the county, but also through the state and other providers that have housing assistance dollars, we know it's not going to be enough to help everybody who needs help. So having access to services for those navigating eviction and foreclosure issues is going to be really important. And then that third bucket is around food, utility, and direct financial assistance. So just want to talk a little bit more about each of those. On the homeless side, I talked about the increased needs and the change in approach they've had to undertake. This effort is really about helping those agencies meet the shelter costs that they've incurred so far and then project over the rest of the year. The county has also been helping those shelter agencies access FEMA public assistance as much as we can, so we can not leave any potential funding on the table. But there's still quite a gap to address the shelter needs. In that housing stability services area, we know that over 90% of renters that are facing eviction don't have legal representation. So we want to increase those available legal aid services. As in our kind of usual course of business, the county has existing relationships with a lot of the HUD certified housing counseling agencies that serve suburban Cook. So we'll be providing additional funding to those agencies to be able to meet the demand they're seeing. And then we're looking at how we can best support the foreclosure mediation program that is housed within the county court system. That was a program stood up after the last housing crisis that we're essentially looking to tap it back into that model and reinvigorate it. So want to use a little bit of this funding as seed money because that program can be largely supported by filing fees, but just needs a little funding to get it going. On the utility assistance side, Sochi mentioned earlier, we are partnering with CETA, who operates existing programs that provide gas, electric, phone, and water utility assistance. And we're going to infuse some of our funding so that we can serve more suburban Cook residents and meet that increased demand I mentioned earlier. On the food assistance side, we're working with the Greater Chicago Food Depository to support both additional healthy food, but also the operating and staffing costs for both existing and some new distribution sites in areas that are lacking access or sites and in communities of color. And then lastly, we're working with an entity called the Family Independence Initiative on a direct financial assistance program. They're a 20-year-old organization that's been working on this direct financial assistance approach for a while in Chicago. During COVID-19, they've expanded into the south suburbs, and they launched a fund with some private and philanthropic funding that was taken up in about a week. So clearly a big need, and we're excited to expand that model more broadly in suburban Cook. So with that, I would like to pass it on to Carl Bradley, our housing guy, to talk about the rental and mortgage programs that the county's putting together.
Thank you, Dominic. Good afternoon. On the housing side, we have two major initiatives. The first is a rental assistance program, and the second is a mortgage assistance program. Both programs are assisting residents with a certain need. That is just to keep them in their house. We don't want to see an increase of homelessness or mortgage foreclosures, as we saw in the previous downturn. So the goal is to try to keep them where they are and get them stable. The real issue is that families under $75,000 of income, about 50% of them are affected both on the homeowner and the rental side by COVID-related industries being reduced. Retail, entertainment, hospitality, small manufacturing, those jobs have pretty much been decimated by the COVID event and still have yet to fully recover. How are we going to do this program? We basically are going to try to implement it through a partnership with HAC, Housing Authority of Cook County. They have the capacity in terms of systems and regular know-how to take in the volume applications. It also allow us to build some capacity within the county in case we want to do this program again or move forward on an annual basis doing something like this. Eligibility requirements, it'll be families under 80% of area median income, or about $72,000 for the average family of four. We need them, they're required to have arrearages on either their mortgage or their lease. And we're looking to give 3 months of subsidy to each family, either on the rental side or on the mortgage side. On the rental side, that amounts to about $4,500. Average rent in the county is about $1,500. And on the mortgage side, it may approach just above $7,000 when you add in taxes and insurance on people's mortgage payments. And we have some antiquated mortgages out there with not the most favorable terms that are in the market right now. This is going to be a grant program for them. It's going to be a grant program, and families will be required to spend the money on their leasing or their mortgage payments. The goal is to pay directly to the landlord or the mortgage holder, but the resident of Cook County, of course, will have to do the application. Program will be limited to the suburban areas of Cook County under our program. There's an overarching program from IDA with about the same eligibility requirements, a little bit more on the benefit side that will reach into the county also. The city has sort of the same funding that we have, and they recently announced a assistance program, not in the exact same terms, plus and minus of some of the variables that'll cover the city of Chicago. We all try to communicate, make sure we're not we're all kind of one off of each other, but we all communicate to try to figure out how to close the gaps. We think we'll be oversubscribed significantly. We probably think we're going to do about 5,000 on the rental side, and then maybe a couple thousand on the mortgage side, given that we have a $20 million bucket for each. But applications may run into the tens of thousands. And then we'll be looking to try to figure out other ways to address the ongoing need. think I'm turning it back over to Sochi at this point.
Thank you, Carl, and thanks Irene and Dom for jumping in and providing information on the programs. Commissioner, do we have a few minutes to take questions that people might have?
Yes, we do.
Okay.
So I don't know if any of the commission members have any questions. I know that we have limited time, so you know, if there are anything else, if there's any type of other follow-up that you all need, we can definitely arrange for that. But if there's anything that needs clarity, I know we had a few questions on the chat, specifically from Commissioner Guajardo, who stated, what are the requirements in regards to the mortgage assistance? I don't know if there is anything else, Anna, that you need clarity. I know that they went over some of the requirements, but I don't know if there was anything specifically that you were looking for.
There was, yeah, no, and I think you answered part of my question after I sent the message, but this assistance, is there, trying to figure out how to frame this. Do you need documentation or authorization documentation for this? What documents are you requesting from folks to show proof of, is it just proof of residency? Do you need proof of status?
Carl, can you answer that in regards to the actual documentation that will be requested by HAC?
Yeah, I think I'm hearing you asking the question of status and residency with, is that the question? I'm hearing it correctly? We are not checking on the front end for status in terms of the application. So residency within Cook County is establishing the application.
So it could be any proof of just residency here in terms of where your house, not necessarily residency in terms of legal status.
Correct.
Yeah, we're not looking for status. We're looking for residency within Cook County at this point.
Thank you.
And specifically within suburban Cook County. So the city received its own allocation of CARE CRF funding, and they're launching complementary programs. So our funding is used specifically for suburban Cook County residents.
Commissioner, it's Howard. I just wanted to, if I could have 15 seconds.
Of course,
and,
you can have 30.
Thank you so much, Commissioner. I want to compliment the Bureau, and this isn't because I'm chair of EDAC. I have heard this before, but it actually gets better as we get closer to the real needs that are going to be so apparent beginning in the fall. Ultimately, this hard work that was done largely virtually is incredible, and it is innovative and a model, I think, for other regions of the country. But first and foremost, we need to take care of our own residents, and I commend Sochi and the members of the Bureau for fantastic work.
Yes, I echo those sentiments, Bureau Chief Flores. I think what's important also to note is that this initiative itself, the recovery portion, will be roughly about $72 million that is going to be allocated for all of these efforts, which is why I thought it was absolutely crucial that we have, you know, economic development and its partners really talk about this initiative and talk about the different portions, because I felt it to be very holistic. It looks at different areas, and it will definitely, you know, lead a lot of the efforts around some of the areas that people and residents in Cook County have been majorly impacted by. So again, I think, you know, the President's office, along with, you know, Bureau of Economic Development and all of the other departments that have joined forces to be able to accomplish this. And like I mentioned, we just approved earlier today this initiative. So I don't know if there's any other follow-up questions. If not, we can go into our next conversation.
Just one last one, Commissioner. So suburban, just to be clear, suburban meaning anything outside of Chicagoland area. It could be the south suburbs, it could be the north suburbs, west suburbs.
Correct.
It's not restricted. Perfect, thank you.
Any other comments or questions?
And
So
I could just quickly add one final thing, Commissioner. If you are not already receiving the Bureau of Economic Development's newsletters, please go to our website and sign up for it, because as we roll out these programs, we will be doing quite a bit of communications and making sure that people remain informed, because I know that each of you have robust networks. So if you can share information, and we'll be obviously sending all this information to Commissioner and I and her team. She'll be distributing it, but it's important that we activate all of our networks in order to ensure that the residents and businesses that need this critical, all these critical programs can access this information.
Yeah, and I echo that, just because we are, we have very strict timelines, specifically around, the CARES funding and how we will be utilizing it. So yes, absolutely, we need to make sure that this gets out to the different entities and communities and residents, so that the people that are directly impacted can really take advantage of this. I was going to ask Christy De Laurentiis, I know that South Suburban Mayors Association is kind of part of this. I don't know if there was anything that you wanted to comment in regards to the partnership that you have created with Cook County.
Sure, thanks for the opportunity. I'll say the program that was laid out here today is really comprehensive and taking a holistic approach. Not only the feedback from partnering organizations that helped influence some of the nuances of the program, but also the survey and the feedback that came from communities representing various levels of need. Specifically, the county has been very supportive of the South Suburban Southland Development Authority, which is a new institution that was created last year to respond to the need to spur economic development. And I believe at our last in-person meeting, we had a presentation about that and a lot of dialogue. Since that time, we've been essentially, the SDA has been pivoting and doing most of its work, providing technical assistance to local South Suburban businesses and contractors, trying to ensure that they're accessing both the federal PPP loans and emergency loan programs through the government, but also the county's loan programs. So that's been front and center. And to date, we've helped, I don't know what the exact number, I saw an update and I'm sorry, it was close to 200 businesses secure almost $2 million in PPP loans, securing their businesses. And many of them are in the pipeline to get it, just don't have it in hand. So it's been extremely important and really transformational for these businesses to be able to have that security and really the handholding through the application process. So to continue this work, this really important work is vital, I think, to our long-term success. And so the county's commitment to this initiative and really thinking about the long-term impacts is it's critically important at this moment in time, and hopefully provides lifelines to businesses that can not only stabilize today, but then grow and prosper and hire folks within our very communities. So that's all I wanted just to add, but thanks for the opportunity to share that.
Of course. Thank you. So if there's I don't see anybody else have any comments or questions on the chat. So again, thank you so much to the Bureau and to the different departments that have taken time out of their day to walk us through this. Everybody will be receiving the deck. So when we send the minutes out, just look out for it. If there's any additional questions, we'll be happy to answer those. Just wanted, what we're going to do is just kind of shift over and talk a little bit about the different opportunities and different things that you all have done individually. I know that with some members, I was able to go into the briefing and talk about that, but I think I want to give a few minutes to some individuals, including Commissioner Anderson, Sol Anderson, who wanted to just fill us in on an initiative that Lift Chicago has been doing. So I want to give him the floor, and if there's anybody else that wants to share any other good news or any other initiatives that the commission can benefit from, that we can maybe uplift and also connect to the residents to those resources. I'll be sure maybe just comment on the chat, and then I'll be sure to give you the floor right after Commissioner Anderson.
Thank you, Commissioner Naya. Yeah, I just wanted to share. Some of you are maybe aware that Lift Chicago is a part of our programming, and Lift is we're a national anti-poverty organization that we do direct cash transfers as a part of our work. So as people progress through our program, they're eligible for small influxes of cash that are really just to provide short-term economic stability as our participants work towards long-term economic stability. But during the early days of the lockdown, Lift and a few other partner organizations, including Economic Security Illinois, Family Independence Initiative of Chicago, and Chicago Jobs Council as well. With Commissioner Carrie Thomas as her organization is a member as well. We formed a group called the Illinois Cash Coalition that pulled together to raise and distribute emergency cash assistance to community members across Chicagoland. So we were able to raise and distribute over $2.7 million in emergency cash assistance, most of that going through in the form of $500 cash transfers to community members who were particularly vulnerable. So we focused on communities of color. We focused on community members who would not otherwise be eligible for stimulus funds, and folks who just, different layers of folks from areas of the city that would be more vulnerable during a moment. So communities that were hardest hit by COVID-19. We are continuing our work, thinking about ways to highlight and expand cash transfers across Chicago and across the state as well. So if anyone is interested in joining that coalition, I'd be happy to hear from them. Feel free to reach out. But I just wanted to share that update, and that we are continuing to work on expanding cash assistance. There's a lot of worthy efforts going on, but we believe it's important to also focus on folks really needing cold hard cash in their pockets to be able to make ends meet during this time. So I just wanted to share that update, and as I said, excited for anybody else who's interested in joining to reach out to me. It's the Illinois Cash Coalition. And so I don't know if it's appropriate. I could put my email address in the chat here if folks want to reach out to me. I'll just do that. So take a look at the chat, and I'll put my email address for anyone who's interested in joining the commission, or the coalition, excuse me.
Sure, thank you. So there's a lot of great things happening. I want us to open up and have a discussion on how specifically either the Bureau or anything that has been announced, how it fits into our work, how can we see it tie in. I know sometimes the different organizations and the different people and commission members play a very important part in a lot of entities. So I want to, again, open it up and see if there's anything specifically that we can see. And the purpose for that is so we can make the connections and again, make sure that we're helping our residents, but also it could potentially guide our work going forward as a commission. We had a lot of these conversations prior to COVID. We were talking about resiliency, how, manufacturing, we were talking a lot about these issues, and, it almost seemed like it just kind of hit us out of nowhere with COVID. And we want to make sure that we're proceeding on those conversations. So I want to make sure that we're tying it together back to the commission and how we can proceed. And with that said, the other portion is was there anything missing, right? Based on all the initiatives that we just talked about, is there still something missing that we should concentrate on as a commission going forward so that we can, again, it can guide our work in the next few months? I don't know if there's anybody that has a comment on that or a suggestion.
So can I just brainstorm with you all just a few things? So, for those of you who know, like, we're incubating worker cooperatives, and so our catering co-op, Las Visionarias, had a hard hit when COVID hit. Several of their large orders were canceled, and we started a hot meal program helping African American Latino residents in South Chicago and Calumet City to receive once a week hot meals. And we've been trying to figure out how to expand it. And then the other co-op members that were going through trainings Unfortunately, like we managed to get them, to some assistance, financial assistance as they drive and drop off the food to the leaders. But what we're trying to figure out is like, how do we lift up these small businesses? Because even though they work a cooperative, they're small businesses. How do we lift them up during COVID? We tried getting loans for the Cooperativa Visionaria, the PP loan, and so they were denied. So anyone that can maybe would like to sit down with me or help me, not sit down in person, but like brainstorm and help think some things through, because we unfortunately could have right now been moving 2 to 3 other co-op businesses, but everything just got stopped. But it would be helpful to know if there's other resources out there that could be a motivation, but also as we figure out the business plans, because it's changing a lot now due to COVID, in terms of what industries we're going to be, the groups are going to be focusing on. So just if anyone's willing, please let me know. I could put my email or my phone number. I would just love to brainstorm to see what resources could be helpful for the south side of Chicago and in the south suburbs, which is like predominantly Calumet City.
And Anna, can you repeat why the co-ops did not qualify for any of the assistance again?
So their income from the year before was low, and they incorporated in the summer of 2018 through 2019, I don't recall. And so as we were going back and forth with the bank, and I mean, First Midwest Bank was doing amazing. They were trying to be very helpful, but they said that their income was too low. And then we also have other business owners in our community that also applied. One that does cleaning, and she actually was also denied. And so they said I don't recall what they said for her. I think it was maybe that her workforce was small. And so these were just some obstacles we ran into as we were trying to help them apply for these PPP loans.
Yeah, that's interesting. And I appreciate you bringing that up, because I think that these are the different types of obstacles that we need to keep an eye out for, because I know that that we've been trying at the county as much as possible to be inclusive of everybody, specifically because so many people didn't qualify for PPP, on how we can help at a more local level, and sustain the economic systems here locally, the ecosystem. So I want to make sure that we capture all of that to see if there's anything we could do at the county level. Sochi, did you have a comment on that? Do you know exactly? Do you know what she's talking about?
Yeah. So actually, my question was from the business presentation. That was going to be my question. Is are those grants that were presented, the $10,000 grants and all, like the trainings and all stuff, are those available also for worker cooperatives and the efforts that organizations like Anna and I are doing? Because I mean, we are working with community members in doing trainings and development and getting them prepared to enter the workforce, but there's no, like I know this is a new model, and I know where Anna and I are, we're still kind of like, with small groups, but I'm wondering what opportunities we have for those grants that you guys mentioned, and if worker cooperatives that, I mean, I have the same experience as Anna, like, we're just getting started. There are a lot of these businesses are very small. They're not making a lot of money, but they're very promising, right? So we're working right now with a cleaning co-op, and we're thinking about scaling up and, really focusing on that opportunity of training folks on disinfecting, sanitizing. But they need some funding in the beginning because they're still considered startups. So yeah, that would just kind of be a question for if the program that you guys are launching is considering these specifically, because you guys mentioned that it was, for a lot women and then Latinas and Black communities. So.
Sure. So I'll have Bureau Chief Flores maybe chime in, and then I know Commissioner Jerry is also has her hand raised. So I'll go to her after.
I mean, it's definitely early on when PPP, or the Paycheck Protection Program, was originally launched. We did see that so many of our small businesses were having such a hard time accessing those funds. I mean, it's difficult enough for businesses that are within the city of Chicago to have access it. We saw that many small businesses within within suburban Cook County were even having a more difficult time because they didn't have the as robust of an ecosystem of support within the suburbs. And as Christy De Laurentiis mentioned, we did partner with the Southland Development Authority to work directly with those small businesses right away, because we realized that some mom and pop shops, those really small businesses, would have a harder time navigating through and finding those resources, or finding how to access those resources. One of our strong partners is the American Business Immigration Coalition, and they have had a great deal of success working closely with Seaway Bank and helping a lot of their small businesses that they're working with access the Paycheck Protection Program. There's still a lot of money that's left there that it seems like it's still available. We need to figure out how to get those businesses to apply and access it. I think that it would be important for us to just possibly follow up and have a discussion. We can convene a few people to talk about specifically what's going on with the co-ops and why they have had a challenge. Oftentimes, if we just bring a few strong partners to think through this and figure out where is the challenge, what are they seeing, because many of the businesses that contacted us and that ABIC worked closely with, they had gone through their lending partner, they had gone through the Chases and all the bigger banks, and were having such a hard time accessing it, even though that was their banking institution. But when we went through other, either a CDFI or another entity, they were able to access the right funding. So my recommendation is maybe we follow up and have just a discussion on co-ops and bring in some people. So maybe Commissioner Naya, if you can get a listing of the individuals that want to participate in that discussion, we can convene a meeting and talk about that.
Most
And I know
definitely.
that someone also posted on the chat a link to the resource that the Chicago Community Loan Fund put together. That's a great resource as well. It just lists all the available loans and different programs that are out there. So I encourage people to pass that one along. And I see that Christy also mentioned the SDA. I mean, we are seeing that a lot of those small mom and pop shops are having a hard time. And that's why we want to build out a more robust network of like the SDA and other organizations that are on the ground and that really understand the needs of those small businesses and helping them navigate and find the resources. So the SDA is another great resource, the Southland SBDC, and all of these are also posted on our website as partners. So please go to our website and sign up for a newsletter, but I understand what is going on. So let's convene a few individuals that are interested in talking a bit further about co-ops, and we can bring some of our partners to discuss that as well.
Will do. Thank you.
Thank you.
So Commissioner Aglipay, I know that you had some comments, and then after Commissioner Freeman also had a very important note that we want to make sure to highlight.
Yeah, so Anna and Sochi, be happy to also work with you on finding out what the stories are of those cooperative owners and the challenges that they have. You know, I've been talking in the press. I recently did an interview with Cranes and also with policymakers, because some of these instances, they should not be shut out of PPP. We're working with our DC office to address these stories. So we're constantly, even an hour before this call, media and congressional requests for these stories that are happening in instances. So happy to talk with you about that as well. In terms of the PPP and not able to get it, we are working with the SBA every other week. We have regular webinars updating people on the facts about SBA, but also navigating them on avoiding predatory lending. Small Business Majority is one of the founding members and the only business group representing borrowers, in addition to our lending partners, to avoid predatory lending. We've worked with groups like National Capacity to translate our tips on finding funding and avoiding predatory lending, because we know many of them are owners of color that are falling victim. And recently the FTC put out 3 national reports about online funding sources that, again, mostly owners of color are turning to, that they're warning in regards to their predatory practices. So happy to talk to you about that, but also to let you know we are holding those every other week with SBA, with the staff, up-to-date information on what's happening there. One of the things, and I know Kristen's speaking after me, and Kristen and I were recently on a delegation call for Illinois with some congressional representatives, is that we also understand that some small business owners may not be well prepared for times of adverse economic conditions. To that end, we've actually catered our boot camp, and we developed it from a lens of financial literacy for business startups and planning. We included it to walk people through exactly what it means to also open a bank account. So for instance, DCEO's checklist, everybody has a wonderful checklist of you need to keep a separate bank account. The problem is what we found with the pandemic, and I'm sure Kristen's dealt with this too with the individuals she's been working with, is nobody knew how to set it up, because it's actually you need to be walked through about getting an EIN number, incorporating, understanding what your taxes are. And some small business owners simply also use their personal bank account. Many of our partners like WBDC have had, and business owners I know, they've had to return their PPP funds because unfortunately they didn't set up their business properly on paper. So we're trying to remedy that by working with our partners, the BSOs like the WBDCs, and Exxon and such, Englewood, Bronzeville area, South Side, conducting these new trainings on like how do you actually start your business and be a business on paper from the lens of financial readiness, which has been, lacking in terms of how you can actually weather adverse economic conditions also. So hopefully, I'd love to talk with you, Anna and Xochitl, more about that and see how we could better leverage the partnerships in the ecosystem. I co-direct the Chicago Inclusive Growth Coalition. Now that is Chicago-based, but it's moving towards a more holistic, view of including county and others, folks who are interested in building that up and exchanging best practices on how to best support business owners during this time of the pandemic as well.
Thank you for your comments. Commissioner Freeman? Hold on, you're on mute. Let me unmute you. Okay, you should be good.
Okay, I'm dialed in as well, so if there's feedback, I may need to mute my actual screen. But yeah, I had the pleasure of working with CCLF on the resource guide. We recently did an edition, I think it was released last week. And the one thing I will say is entrepreneurs are not digesting the guide as it stands. So that's one consideration. People are still feeling overwhelmed with the amount of information that's coming in, with the multiple sources, be it from the state, the federal, city. There is the frustration of also going through the process. So what I also had the pleasure of doing with CCLF was creating their PPP call center. So we had 6 consultants, a few of which were attorneys, a few were nonprofit consultants, and a few had CPA backgrounds. And even to this day right now, there are just some organizations, it was really difficult to get through the process. And a lot of it has to do with accounting practices and how their businesses are set up. So the one thing CCLF kept saying is like, we are not in the space of doing regular ongoing technical assistance for these businesses. So we need to make sure that there is a service provider. So that was the other consideration. Most of these organizations are not familiar with their local service provider. They don't know who the organization is to even receive the support that they could potentially get. So there's a twofold consideration, one of the actual incorporation structure, legal structure, that sort of thing. But the consistent thing that we kept seeing, because the PPP is calculated off of very specific lines on your tax return, a lot of our businesses are declaring a loss on their taxes, which means they're not eligible for PPP. It's that simple. We have a lot of organizations that are also unfortunately classifying people as 1099s when they technically should be employees. So I had people who told me, okay, I got idle, and I said I had 7 employees, and then we had to have a larger conversation about the difference between an employee and a 1099. And so these are the things that business owners, unfortunately, because we are in an area of crisis, every single weakness is now being exposed and exploited and magnified. And so when we're talking about some of these issues, it's not as simple as, okay, well, we can have somebody work with you on the loan, because there's so many layers we then have to peel back to get them to the point that they need to be. So if at all possible, and I know that there are smaller entities that have done this, there needs to be more support for professional development. It's not just having someone go through the loan process. It's an accountant, it's an attorney. It is someone who has the skill set to be able to do some foresight and some planning with these organizations to say, okay, we know you may not be legitimate today, but here's the pathway. And like Jerry said, it is a financial consideration. Most of these entrepreneurs are not in communities that have accessible banking relationships. In a lot of underserved places, there is not a business banking person you can go in to talk to. There is often a person that will take deposits, but there isn't a banker. And so part of the problem that these organizations were having is you're not in the bandwidth of Chase and B of A for the most part, most of the organizations that we're working with. But that's who they bank with. And so when it came time to apply for these considerations, they weren't getting a response, they weren't getting feedback. A lot of the people that called the call center weren't calling because they needed help applying for the first go round. They said, we applied with our home institution and we need to know what's going on. Can you walk us through this process? Can you tell us what to expect? So a lot of it, we're still dealing with not just tangible technical assistance, but people want some level of confidence that someone can tell them what's going on. And that's the piece where I think we still need to make sure efforts are happening, because while there may be experts that are being presented to these communities, if there is not a consideration of trust where the community can trust the expert and trust the expertise, that information isn't going to be adhered to and applied in a way that it needs to be applied. So I think we still need to maintain not just the consideration of bringing experts to these communities, but bringing trusted expertise into the communities, having people who can understand where this business is actually starting from, not just the perspective of where they ideally are supposed to be. So there's a lot, I tell folks, you might not qualify for a lot of this government funding, and that just is what it is. But there's lists, there's still a number of organizations that are not requiring you to show your business registration, because many of these businesses may have let that lapse prior to. So it's not just, we're not just dealing with COVID, we're dealing with them being underserved and then being slapped in the face of COVID.
Perfect. Thank you so much for adding that. I think that that's definitely one of the areas that I continue to see. I mean, I actually took my team out to go talk to some of the businesses in my district, and that's exactly what you just mentioned, the fact that there's this uncertainty and they don't really, small businesses don't have that connection to somebody that either they trust or that they have the most accurate, up-to-date information is definitely a huge barrier that we're seeing. So I appreciate you commenting on that, because I think that that's something that we need to figure out how to work on. And I know Bureau Chief Flores is working with her comms team also to make sure that this information, especially particularly at the county level, is more digestible than some of the more dense things that are coming out from the federal government. So we definitely have a lot of work to do on that end, and there needs to be a lot of outreach. There needs to be a lot of intentionality to be more inclusive to the small businesses, so that they get, again, the most accurate, most updated information. I'm gonna, I know that I wanna be, again, mindful of time. I'm gonna move forward. I'm gonna ask, I know that Commissioner Cooley had a few comments also in regards to the food assistance program portion, and I'm gonna see if he can share some of those with the commission, and then we can, circle back with anybody else if anybody else had any additional comments.
Great, thank you, Commissioner Naya. And Commissioner Guajardo highlighted some of the programs that we've been partnering with her and her worker cooperative that they've been supporting on directing resources that have been targeted for getting food to folks who need it, in their case through meals. But really, that's channeling philanthropic dollars, but wondering about some opportunities for combining some of the economic development with the social service work, so that, like, especially for meeting food needs, it's not only being channeled through the food depository, but potentially leveraging the capacities of smaller BIPOC restaurants, caterers, field food service providers who could help do some of that work, recognizing that that, as we've seen through all the stats and everybody knows, that the need is greatly stretched beyond what the current emergency food system can provide, but seeing how we could look at stringing together multiple benefits from not just combining some of these emergency services with these businesses who need new opportunities to survive. What also see is an opportunity to solidify their work and be able to grow as well. That's kind of one of the main points, but excited to see where the commission can move towards, and wondering about kind of a more holistic look at how to think about all these programs being stitched together, is talking about, what is that new social and small business safety net that needs to be put together comprehensively. That's a real comprehensive strategy for the county moving forward, how the commission can help support all that.
Duly noted. That's a very good observation that I didn't connect. So thank you for commenting on that, Commissioner Cooley. There have been a few comments on the chat. I want to make sure that I, mention them. So there was a comment from Mohammed that PPP will be ending August 8th unless there's an extension. So just take note of that. Commissioner Eglope mentioned that there is also systematic gaps in the system of lending where owners of color are turned away, and that they really shouldn't have. They are losing the trust in the banking system as a result. Commissioner Freeman agreed with that statement. Then there was a follow-up statement that some owners of color have spoken are too tired of applying. Oh, I guess that they're too tired of applying and being turned away. Sadly, even the grants they are not even receiving. A follow-up statement in regards to Mohammed's statement on PPP applications is on August 8th. Most banks have earlier deadlines, some as early as this week, potentially even just 2 days ago on the 28th of July. And that is it. So so what I'm going to do is just a quick time check. It's about to be 5:15. So we do have a few other items that just some new business and some other things that we have to discuss. So I'm going to turn it over to those items. I know that this was a I appreciate all the input from all commission members. If there is anything else that we missed, that we'll definitely circle back before our next meeting. I think this is a really good start on some of the gaps that we're seeing, that we are interfacing with, that we need to make sure we loop that around into, again, our work going forward. So I'm more than happy to help with the convening on the co-ops conversation. Commissioner Cooley, I'll definitely circle back with you in regards to the statement you just stated. I'd love to, dissect that a little bit further and see exactly how we can make those connections on helping on, for lack of better words, killing two birds with one stone. So we'll definitely do that. And then what we'll do is at the next meeting, I'll meet with my team and some of the other groups to see if we have something more solidified at any next steps that we can follow up with. And with that said, I'm going to turn over to some of the new business that we wanted to discuss. So as a reminder, we haven't met, including the committees haven't met since February. So we wanted to just remind everybody that committees will begin to meet again. They will be through Zoom. We're just asking that all chairs please reach out to either Victoria from my team or Yesenia so that we could get those proposed dates in order. We do have to, of course, follow Open Meeting Act regulations. So we have to notify, we have to do proper notice and post and have an agenda ready. What we'll do is when we circle back with all the chairs, we'll get those dates so that we can submit the written notice of the meeting, and then we can provide you all with the Zoom link, and then that way we can continue meeting with the committees. If you have a draft agenda, I know that we were trying to, as much as possible, keep them uniform, so we will just make sure that you have the right format on those the draft agendas. You can send it over to us, and then we'll definitely post. And if there's any other follow-up questions, please feel free to let us know. The second thing I wanted to mention was that we had, again, a lot of technical difficulties, even with Zoom today. So we're gonna try to keep the link uniformed going forward. So what I'll ask is that, you know, when we send it to you, not to obviously share with anybody else. And when we go in any of our follow-up meetings, you'll have the same link, so we don't have any of the same hiccups that we had today. A lot of people had the wrong link, or they didn't have the password, etc. So we'll try to keep it a little bit more uniform going forward so that we don't have that. But another issue that we had was in regards to your contact information. So maybe we sent it to the wrong email address. So if you had an update in your position or in any of your contact information, including your phone number or your email, please email Victoria and Yesenia. Their emails have been included in the chat just to update your information. I was talking to my staff in regards to maybe having an online directory for us internally so that you can see what information we have, and if it's inaccurate or outdated, you can let us know. So we'll try to do that. And then we'll move forward. Hopefully it's a smoother process next month and within the committees. So we'll try to make it as smooth as possible on our end. The next meeting we are going to be scheduling for August 27th. And we are looking at having the meeting at 4 o'clock. So if there's any issues with the time, I know that this was our set time for our in-person meetings and it worked very well for everybody else. But if there is any other proposals to either move it up or move it down, again, please reach out to my staff. We'll try to keep it at 4 o'clock, but I know sometimes, you know, towards the end of the day, it gets a little harder. So, you know, I think the option would be for moving it from 4 to 3. But if that doesn't work for folks, then we'll just stick to 4 o'clock. And then I have a custom of opening it up for announcements. So I want to open it up if there's any announcements from any of the commission members. If you can just, you know, just state, either raise your hand or just let me know if there's anybody that would like to make an announcement. Commissioner Raymer.
Hi, everybody. I'd like to make an announcement that BMO is partnering with CARA to do a retail hiring initiative. And we had kicked it off and it was almost ready to launch, and then COVID hit, so we delayed it. But it's up and running again. And in fact, we are increasing the amount of spots that we would like to open up. We're purposely targeting folks in the south and west sides. This is an entry-level position, and CARA is going to be the intake organization. They've adjusted their programming. It's no longer like in a classroom all day. There's virtual, so there's flexibility involved now if you're familiar with CARA's program. But the hiring date is October. So we're going to be recruiting and everything now in August, and the hiring point is, oh shoot, I should know this, I'm on this committee. Anyways, go to CARA's website. We'll be out and about spreading the words and everything too, but it's up and running again, and a career in banking is awesome. If people have backgrounds in hospitality, a lot of the retail, world is no longer available. Those are nicely transferable skills. So just putting that on your radar.
Thank you. Anybody else has an announcement? All right, I don't see any hands and no comments on the chat. So
Commissioner, I believe that Commissioner Guajardo has her hand raised.
Commissioner Guajardo?
I'm so sorry. I don't even know how I did that.
Oh, no worries.
Sorry.
No worries. Commissioner Brutus.
Hey, good afternoon, everyone. So some of you might know I work for the Department of Planning and Development, and we have an initiative called the Invest Southwest program, where we're really focusing on trying to, eradicate some inequities by focusing on how to drive investment into 12 commercial areas that have been pre-identified in the city of Chicago, 10 neighborhoods, 12 corridors. And so as part of our partnership, we are working with LISC, and we are trying to identify a priority corridor manager so that will work with the communities and the department and city in these neighborhoods. And so LISC has extended their RFP for this particular position. So in a way, this is another good opportunity for us to hopefully try to identify the right type of person and get a plethora of candidates for these positions. And so that RFP, I'm going to send an email to Commissioner Anania's team so that that email can then be circulated out to the group. But I wanted to just announce that LISC has extended their deadline to August 14th to identify a suitable candidate to work in each of these 12 commercial corridors in the City of Chicago's Invest Southwest initiative. So I'll be sending you an email about that, Commissioner Anania.
We'll look out for it, and we'll definitely forward it out to the rest of the commission members.
Thank you.
Great. So with that said, I'll entertain a motion for adjournment.
So moved.
Commissioner Brutus, do I have a second?
Second.
Second. Who was the seconder?
Me.
Oh, gotcha. Okay. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed? Okay, we're adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Bye, guys.
Thank you. Bye. Nice seeing you.
Bye,
Everybody,
everyone.
Bye.
stay well. Stay well.
Be safe.